Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention, a kingdom for a stage, princes to act and monarchs to behold the swelling scene. You know, in the prologue for Shakespeare's Henry V, the chorus, the narrator, the playwright, offers up what I think is really a prayer or a plea. And I think about these words all the time because I also do the same thing when I'm planning the conferences. You know, it's a plea for inspiration, for invention. It's a plea for princely actors or presenters or moderators. It's a plea for a great experience for the audience, the monarchs, and a great experience for you, the attendees here today. So I think about it a lot. And actually, as Jack mentioned, in 2016, we were marking the 400th anniversary of William Shakespeare's death, or death-iversary as I've heard it. How many of you actually work for organizations who have done something with Shakespeare in some way this year? Okay? Super. Keep your hands up, or are going to do something for Shakespeare. Keep your hands up. Okay, those of you who don't have your hands up, how many of you personally have gone to a Shakespeare thing, or are going to go to a Shakespeare thing, or I've actually intimidated you now that you probably will go to a Shakespeare thing? Super, fantastic. That's quite a few of you. And the way I kind of look at it right now, Shakespeare's influence is really alive and well here in the Tessitura community. So much so, I wonder what the Tessitura network would be like if we didn't have William Shakespeare. Would we be even here today without William Shakespeare? I don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you 100%, I would not be here today if it were not for William Shakespeare. That's the truth. I grew up in rural Minnesota in the heartland of the United States. And I enjoyed, Minnesota, go for it. And I enjoyed fishing, swimming, all sorts of sports, singing in choirs, playing in the band, and I loved studying math and science. I did not like really reading and writing and that kind of stuff. Well, in 1974, my high school English literature class, whatever happened to that good-looking kid, I gotta tell you. My high school English literature class, we were studying Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice because we were going to go and actually see the production in a live theater. We read it over and over. I had no idea what it meant. I could not understand it. I got to the point where I actually hated Shakespeare. Well, that fateful day came where we were bussed up to the Guthrie Theater. Where are you, Guthrie? Where are you? Guthrie's in the house. Cool, the Guthrie Theater. This is the old Guthrie Theater, not the new one. And I was sitting in the audience waiting for the play to begin. The house lights were lowered, the stage lights came up, the actors came out, and they started and they began their dialogue, and all I heard was blah, 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 want, wit, sadness, blah, 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 argosies of, I had no idea what they were saying. It was just horrible. I sat there thinking with dread for the next 2.5 hours I was gonna just have to live in agony. Well, so I sat back in my seat and I started looking at the props, the scenery, the costumes, the lights, and I started watching the actors move around. I started watching them interact with each other. And then, in one of those transcendent moments that Andrew Racinos talked about, I got it, just like that. Shakespeare just became known to me. I could understand exactly what was happening. It was fantastic. The world of Shakespeare, it was fantastic. So over the next few years, I had actually 2 more transcendent moments at the Guthrie Theater, one involving a flying ghost in A Christmas Carol. It was awesome. And then experiencing Ming Cho Lee's magical set for The Glass Menagerie. So the theater bug bit me. It bit me hard, and it never let go. It actually, I started doing theater. I started studying theater. I got my graduate degree in theater. I worked in the theater. Where's Indiana Rep? Are you in the house? Woo, Indiana Rep. So I started working in the theater, and now I serve the theater here at the Tessitura Network, which is really cool. So thank you, Guthrie Theater. Thank you, Shakespeare. However, Shakespeare's influence is not really only in the theater. We know that there are operas, there are symphonic works, there are dances and ballets, all dedicated to the works of Shakespeare. We know that. We also know that Shakespeare shows up in paintings all over the place, in Shakespeare's works. We know that Shakespeare shows up in sculpture, in other forms of art all over the place. It's amazing. Shakespeare shows up in museums. It shows up in educational institutions dedicated to the works of Shakespeare and Shakespeare's life. There are some great works out there. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, Kiss Me Kate, West Side Story. These are all works that have become, they're derivative works, but they're all now their own classics in their own way. Again, Shakespeare influences everything. Even Disney's gotten into the act, right? So here's this animated movie, The Lion King, which is obviously a retelling of the story of Hamlet, right? I mean, what better children's story could there be than fratricide and revenge? The other thing about this is I think is really interesting. So a staged play, Hamlet, becomes an animated movie, which becomes a staged musical. That would be The Circle of Life. Never mind. But in this year's celebration, the 400, I've tried to immerse myself in Shakespeare. I've gone to a lot of productions, listened to a lot of podcasts, done a lot of reading, and it was my hope and dream that I was going to be able to come here before you today and give you some profound thought about Shakespeare. What I've learned is there's a lot of smart people out there and how much I don't know about Shakespeare. So, oh well, that's fine. Except I've come across one thing that I think is unique, I think one original thought, and if you don't mind, I'd like to share it with you today. So, pardon gentles all, the flat unraised spirit that hath dared on this unworthy scaffold to bring forth so great an object, a new hypothesis about Shakespeare. I believe that Charles Schulz, the creator of the Peanuts comic strip, got his influence from Twelfth Night. Bear with me here. So you've got Duke Orsino, lover of music, who is oblivious to the infatuation and love of Viola, right? Okay, that's easy. You've got Sir Toby Belch, the filthy guy out there, and you got the insecure Linus, Sir Andrew Aguecheek, okay? It's working, kinda. And of course this one, you've got the trick, tormented, teased, much maligned Malvolio. We got Shakespeare people out here, I can tell. So think about it here, Malvolio, even Charlie Brown's clothing is a nod to the wearing of Malvolio's yellow stockings and ever cross-gartered, right? Come on, we're the dramaturgs out here. You'd be all over this. There you go, thank you. And then of course, there isn't a better Snoopy, Fessé, the fool, the clown out there. It's just perfect. So it's absolutely wonderful. And actually just makes you want to dance with it. So here's the deal. With all of you as my witnesses, if any of you esteemed Shakespeare theaters out there do a future production of Twelfth Night set in the Peanuts comic strip, I want an invite to opening night, okay? Just putting it out there. I can see people already texting their artistic directors that we've got the big one here. So I can just watch that all night. That's kind of fun. Well, indeed, in our audience today, there are lots of great Shakespeare theaters. I probably missed a bunch, and I'm sorry about that. It's just, I was kind of putting this together kind of quickly. But you guys do great works, and I really respect what you do out there. However, as we've said before, no one single genre really can corner the market on Shakespeare. You know, sorry theaters, but Shakespeare belongs to all of us. They belong to all of us who tell stories, all of us who educate, all of us who entertain in our own variety of ways out there. So Shakespeare represents just one more thing that we all have in common, and one more common value, things like collaboration, innovation, excellence, egalitarianism, and community. So I think now, tonight, tomorrow, the rest of the week, actually years to come, let us actually celebrate these common things that we have, and let's tell stories to each other, whether they be Shakespearean, personal, or Tessiturian, because that's how we're actually going to get to know each other, meet each other, and help each other, and bring great creativity to this community. So that'll be great. So, admit me, chorus, to this history who prologue like your humble patience pray, gently to hear, kindly to judge our play, our conference.